Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Have you ever felt like every mealtime is a battle? No matter what you offer your child, they just won't eat it or, well, can't eat it? Before this episode, I had no idea what ARFID was. But after talking with Michelle, it all clicked. ARFID isn't about being picky. It's about fear, overwhelm, and the way some brains and bodies respond to food. Michelle is an expert because she is raising a child who has ARFIDs, and she explains things so clearly and so kindly. Whether you've heard of ARFID or this is all new to you, this conversation will leave you feel seen, informed, and hopefully a little more hopeful. So let's grab a drink and let's jump into today's conversation. So, Michelle, you are raising a child with ARFIDs. Can you explain what that is? What does that mean? All the things. What is that?
So ARFID stands for Avoidant Restrictive Food Intake Disorder. It was added into the DSM-5 criteria in 2013. And kind of prior to that, it was most probably known as selective eating or an unspecified eating disorder. And I think even now, isn't it, it shoots back to the whole picky eating, but we can come back to that. Normally with ARFID, it's kind of characterized by like three main types. So the avoidant, which is like the sensory aspect of food. So it could be the taste, the texture, the smell, the look, even the packaging and the branding. Then you've got like the restrictive side, which is sort of taught it in no interest in food. So like not really feeling the hunger cues. You know, I could be cooking dinner or we're all sat up at the table and my son actually thinks we're odd for eating. Like he has no interest in it whatsoever. And then you've got like the aversive side, which can be triggered through sort of choking, difficulty swallowing, the fear of swallowing, the fear of pain, tummy pain, feeling sick. So it's kind of the feeling of the food in your mouth, I suppose is the easy way to explain it. You know, it can also present in adults, which I think is also a bit of a thing that's not really spoken about much. Adults can get ARFID, anyone of any age can get it. It can just be triggered through different things. And it doesn't have any link to sort of the ideal to be slimmer or lose weight. So obviously there's no link to how you look essentially with ARFID, but it can present alongside other eating disorders, which normally then would go under ARFID plus.
So you mentioned it can start when someone's an adult. Is that right? Is that what you're meaning?
Yeah, it can. Yeah, you know, they kind of call it late onset ARFID, and you might find it would be triggered through maybe like a school-based anxiety. Could be maybe that you've got older and you've choked on something, like you've eaten a food and choked, and then that's triggered ARFID. You know, it can happen at any point to anybody.
And is there like, I don't know if I like the word levels, but you know, is there kind of like a low tolerance to high tolerance or low needs to high needs?
It's a really good question. And I think when you're living with ARFID, everyone likes to compare their journeys to everyone else. And I think there is no written thing that everyone has ARFID the same and they don't. You know, for me, my son kind of fits in all three criterias, but it could be that for someone else, theirs is just the sensory aspect and that's really heightened and that's why they've got ARFID. You know, with the DSM-5 criteria, you don't have to meet every single point. So I think it is important for everyone to understand that there is no written rule to how you present with ARFID. And I think that is a lot of the problem. I think a lot of people go, well, my child only eats one thing and someone else eats 10. And it's like, well, that's just how they present. My child actually doesn't eat anything, you know, so everyone is different.
And how can a parent, I don't know, I don't want to say track signs, but the question is, how does a parent know if it's ARFIDs that their child has or picky eating?
So I think the difference really is most probably how they are around food. I always see that my one thing that I always go by, a child with ARFID would starve themselves rather than eat. So you could put everything on the table and they will not eat that no matter how hungry they are. Whereas I think like you'd say like a fussy eater or even an autistic eater, they would be hungry and they would eventually eat something. Whereas, you know, we've had it with my son. He could go days without eating because he just does not have that cue to eat food. And I think the best way most probably for a parent to track it would be writing food diaries, kind of seeing how they react with food, how are they around it and keeping a track on it that way so you can see the change.
And thinking about kind of that idea that there's not even a hunger trigger.
Yeah.
Is it just, like you said, they're just not hungry, so they don't eat? Or is it their body literally is just not taking it in?
I think that makes sense. I think it's the lack of interest can come from so many different ways. It could be that they just don't see food as being consumed, but also you think like your interoception with autism and things, obviously your hunger and thirst is completely out. So a lot of that obviously could drive not noticing them hunger cues or not noticing you're thirsty. Like we do have to keep an eye on our son because he could go hours without having a drink because he just doesn't understand that he's thirsty or he's hungry. So we do have to gauge sort of like timeframes and when's he had a drink and things like that. So it comes from kind of all different angles, but he is interested in cooking. So he likes food as in like food prep. He likes going to the supermarket and looking at the food, but he just physically doesn't see it as something he should eat.
And how has school, how have they supported or not maybe kind of in this journey?
We've been incredibly fortunate. The school are really, really understanding. I think he started going there in preschool, and at that point he was having yogurt. So we used to just take his yogurts in and they were fine with that. And then as time went on, obviously he has dropped those and now he just has milk and they're fine. You know, he's got provisions in place. If he feels uncomfortable at lunchtime, he can go and play Uno. And there's a room that he could go to that's quieter. They have been really, really good. But I think a lot of that is advocating for your child, isn't it? In any situation, whether they've got autism, ADHD, anything, it is about basically getting your voice out there so that they can enjoy school as much as they can and obviously have the provisions there that are needed. So I think a lot of that is that, isn't it? They are relying on us, our voices, because they can't do it themselves.
Yeah, that's really true. I remember someone saying to me when I kind of started, my son has autism and ADHD, so kind of starting to advocate for him and realizing that the school didn't know everything, if that makes sense, was that you aren't asking the school, you're informing the school.
Yes.
And I think that's something that I don't know, I even forget at times, even though I've been told that. When we go and have these conversations, it's not a demand, it's just you're informing, you're saying, for you, my child eats yogurt, here are yogurts, and so, yeah, I think advocating can be a big step. And like you said, we're their voice.
And it's hard as well, I think, to advocate. Like I was never the person that would speak up. I would never be the person that would do something like this. I never was that person. I just would, hide away in the background and that'd be it. I think when you can see they're struggling or when you can see that the needs are there and they're out of your control for 6 hours a day, like you say, you're not telling them what to do. You're informing them of the situation, isn't it? You're informing them that, he may sit in the lunch hall, but if he doesn't, can he go somewhere else? Same with autism, isn't it? They might need sensory breaks and sensory circuits and stuff. It's just basically telling them, this is my child, this is their life, and can you help me provide a good surrounding for them in school?
And how can others support, or have you found others supporting you kind of on this journey?
So I set up this social media on my page because I felt really alone. I kind of felt like I was most probably the only person that was living it. And I think family and friends understand now, but most probably at the beginning of the journey, they struggled to understand and get it, which is fine. I think that happens with everything, isn't it? No matter what the issue is, it's very hard to wrap your head around. So I kind of I just kind of felt a bit, I wonder if there is someone else out there who understands that they've set up the table or they've sniffed something different. So that's why I set the page up. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, there's so many people. And actually, I speak to so many families now frequently that all live in the same thing and have become really good friends because actually finding someone that truly hand on heart understands what you're going through is worth its weight in gold. Yes, my family understand now, and it's taken a very, very, very long time for all of us to kind of shift our mindset, everything works, all the planning to do stuff. But to be able just to offload to someone who physically gets it down to a T is just amazing, because it does, it could just be something so minor and a friend would be like, oh, okay. They wouldn't understand in the same sense as someone else living it.
Yeah, that is very true.
And it's the same with autism, isn't it?
Yeah.
They come home and they're burnt out, or they have a meltdown when they get home, or things trigger them in different ways. Unless you're living with a neurodivergent person or child, it's really hard to explain what it actually is like.
Yeah.
And I think it is always that boundary, isn't it? There's always that wall of, well, they don't get it.
Yeah. And yeah, I think, like you said, there's just certain, even minor things.
Oh, smallest of things.
Yeah. Just being able to say that to someone and them going, I get it. Yeah. Like,
Yes.
you know, like it's just like a weight of like, I always think I have a very good friend who I'll just text and be like, I just need to tell you this.
Sometimes you don't even want a response, do you? Sometimes you
Yeah.
don't even most probably want them to answer. It's just someone to offload to that would read it and be like, oh yeah, I've done that.
Yeah.
Or, oh yeah, I've written that to whoever. And because it's even the fighting, isn't it? The fight for support, waiting lists for diagnosis, if you can even get one. You know, all of that, isn't it, is so stressful. You know, even just having to take them for a blood test to be able to speak to someone who's also had that battle. It's just, it does make you feel a little bit better.
Yeah. And just knowing they get it is just helpful. So,
Definitely.
yeah. And is there resources or websites or something where people can learn more about ARFID? And
yeah, so ARFID Awareness UK is the only dedicated ARFID charity in the UK. They've got lots of resources on there and stuff, and sort of things you can print out, take to your GP and stuff like that. And obviously Beat, the main eating disorder charity, they do offer some parent support, but it's a postcode lottery. I'm very fortunate that it covers my postcode, so I have done it, but you know, it's not accessible for everyone, which obviously is heartbreaking because there isn't much help out there at the moment. So everyone's just looking for whatever they can. But yeah, they're the main two charities that have got, you know, lots on their websites. There's a lot of information. And also I think sometimes you find out more information from someone that's living it than anywhere else, isn't it? Because, you know, NHS websites and stuff are wonderful and things that come from professionals. But I think actually as a parent, we most probably know more than that professional living the experience.
I mean, that's part of why I started the podcast and kind of my own Instagram journey is there's some amazing stuff out there, you know, by doctors and, you know, all of that kind of medical stuff. And it's getting more and more, particularly for autism and ADHD.
Yeah.
But it's a real life that is what I need, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm the same. I can relate to someone better if it's based on a more real life scenario. I think sometimes you watch professional videos or you read things online and it's such gobbledygook or things that you think, what are they talking about? But then you could watch a video of a mum explaining it and you'd be like, oh yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, I think it's why, I mean, sometimes it's probably doom scrolling, but I'll scroll and just see things and go, oh yeah, okay, I'm not feeling my child.
Yes.
I think that's what is the biggest thing for me is just not like, and it's not comparing in the sense of like my child's better or worse, but it's like, oh, someone else is doing that or someone else's child is doing that, or, you know, just that kind of, I'm not alone. Is that, again, that idea?
Yeah.
Not alone.
And I think none of us, you know, and we're all just parents at the end of the day. Like, I don't actually know what I'm doing. I take one day at a time and wing it and hope for the best. And I think, you know, everyone does that, don't they? I think, and when you're living something that there isn't really much in terms of research out there or in terms of treatments and what actually works, we're all on our own, to be honest. And I think you can just, if someone's tried something and it's worked for them, you think, okay, well, maybe I'll give it a go and it could work for you. It might not. But yeah, Arlo is autistic as well, but his is very, very sensory, which obviously is part of the eating problem. He was always hated having his hair washed, always hated washing his hands. He's getting better, he's getting older. But yeah, as he's getting older, we can start to see different traits coming out.
Yeah.
They change all the time, don't they? You kind of become more aware.
Yeah, sometimes it's, I mean, I'm glad that they're obviously growing and, you know, learning and developing. But sometimes I'm like, we just cracked this code and now you've completely changed. And like, we have to figure out what the next code is, you know, like, I'm like, can we not have just stayed in that moment for a little bit longer, you know, like.
And it's like they know that you've done that too. It's like we've cracked hair washing, which is fantastic. You know, he now has his hair washed. He actually enjoys it, which is a miracle. And then you think, oh, okay, you've just copied and pasted, ticked that one. And now it's like, what should mummy have to worry about next? Or it's like, then I have things with my daughter. So I'm like, okay, we'll go to the next child. We'll get you sorted and then we'll go back to Arlo. It's like I flip between the kids. It's like they're tag teaming, testing my patience or testing my power.
Yeah, I saw something probably on Instagram, TikTok, let's be honest. And it was like, I've just done this course and learned how to be patient and, you know, like count to 10 and all these things. And it's like as if my kids knew that I've just finished and so now are like testing me to the core. And I'm like, yes, this is motherhood. Like
it is true though, isn't it? And what works for one 5-minute period doesn't work for the next 5-minute period. And I think that's the hardest thing. And that's the same with ARFID. Like, you know, he could wake up one day and feel really, he could be poorly for whatever reason. And that could knock him 10 steps back. Or we've had times where I've been cooking dinner and I've been running around trying to do stuff and set the table up. Then my daughter wants me and my husband wants me. And then Arlo's like, Mum, I want some milk. And I'm like, just give me a minute. And then I'll just say to him, do you want a smoothie? Which he very, very, very rarely drinks. And he'll say yes. So I'm like, quick, panic. Grab a smoothie out of the fridge, go and give it to him, and he drinks it. But I think because it's that point, he knows there's no pressure around him, there's no anxiety, there's no one's watching him. Mum's running in the kitchen like an absolute lunatic. He drinks it. But I could give him one the next day. We could be sat watching TV, everything's all calm. I'll say to him, do you want a smoothie? No. You know, it's the scenarios, isn't it? Even just the environment that you're in just changes everything. Massively changes everything.
Yeah, that's so true. I know environments can impact things, but how you're crazy, I don't want to say it's his calm, but you know, that idea that like you say, you're crazy kind of puts the pressure off of him. And so then he feels comfortable to have his smoothie.
And the couple of times he's had one, it has been when I am busy. It has been in times when I'm not most probably paying, not I'm ignoring him, but you know, my focus is on something else, that he's actually drank one. And I'm like, okay, maybe I need to be more chaotic more often. Just live a chaotic life and hope that he starts eating something, which would be a miracle. Yeah, it's this everything, isn't it? It affects everything. And environment in general, isn't it, is such a huge thing, especially with school. You know, we've got half term coming up again, or, you know, whatever break they've got. They could have a school trip. They could have anything, isn't it? You go out for days, even that's stressful. It's all the different little pointers just make such a difference on how they eat.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
How do you kind of manage and prepare and do like days out and, you know, thinking about you would potentially need to eat out?
Yeah, it takes a lot of planning and a lot of lists. I end up kind of thinking, right, how long are we going to be out for? How many bottles of milk is he going to potentially want? Then I have the issue of, okay, so I've got to take milk out, so I need a cool bag because obviously the milk's out of the fridge. And then he'll only drink his milk hot. So then I have to take a flask of hot water and a jug to put it in, plus obviously the bottle it goes in. Then I have to take his supplement shakes and if he's on any medicine. Then I start to think, well, what if because at the moment he does lick things. So he'll lick certain snacks and obviously then they just go in the bin. So then I have to think, well, do I need to take any snacks? So then I have a bag of snacks. I take a smoothie just in case. Obviously the normal things, baby wipes, whatever, just in case and all of that. But it takes forever. And then you think, okay, so if we're going out all day and I don't know, say we're driving an hour, what if we get stuck in traffic? So then I have to start planning for the what ifs. What if we get stuck somewhere and we're out longer than we should be? What if it's, going out for the day is really stressful. And sometimes it's not actually worth it, which is sad because you think, God, you know, it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be that the preparation and the worry should overpower going anywhere, but it does. And even like going on holiday or going away for the weekend, you really have to plan in advance. I'm always looking at like where the nearest shop is so that when we get there, we can buy milk so that I know that we're covered. So I haven't got to take all of it in the car. Unfortunately, we can't go abroad at the minute because you can't take dairy. So we're kind of, there's a problem. We just stay in the UK. And I actually don't think I could cope with the anxiety and the stress from it anyway. I don't think I would manage. But yeah, it's these little things that no one actually really notices. And they're the stuff that goes on behind closed doors and stuff that's not visible either, is it? You know, you can't see that that person's got a bag full of their house and every possibility possible just to have been able to go out. You just can't see it.
It's that's very true. I mean, it's the what ifs, I think, for me that I don't want to say I'm not constantly, but like you say, you know, if we go out for half a day, but we're coming back at, you know, roughly rush hour time or what, you know, like, okay, what if we're late? What if he has a meltdown at this place? How, you know, like and that just it's very tiring, but if you don't do
you'll never expose them to it either.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with going out for dinner. We are very fortunate that he's always been good going out for dinner. He's got better. It used to be that we'd go out and as soon as we sat down, he'd be like, have you had your dinner yet? Have you finished? Have you finished? And he would just repeat himself over and over and over again because he wanted to leave. As he's got a little bit older, he likes going to the Harvester. So we tend to go to the Harvester because he likes it in there and he will happily sit and we can eat our dinner. He'll just sit and have his milk and watch his tablet and, you know, at least we can do that now. Whereas before it used to be really, really stressful. But like you were saying about car journeys and stuff, it's the changing routine, isn't it? You know, you can't see that there's going to be traffic until you're sat in it. So that could trigger a meltdown. That could trigger their overwhelm. And then you think, well, now what? I'm stuck in a car. You know, you can't get them out of the car. You've got to stay in it. So then you're contained. And then I'll sit there sometimes and I think, well, I can't warm up a bottle of milk because I'm going to burn myself.
Yeah. And for us, we do a lot of preparation as in like, so we'll say nothing is a surprise because he wouldn't cope in a like meltdown way. He'd more likely get overexcited and then meltdown because he's like overexcited. But it's days of like, hey, we're going to go do this on this day, you know, like, and this is the plan and this is how we're going to get, you know, it's like doing that. And depending on what it is, kind of depends on maybe how long we lead up to it, if that makes sense. So if we're flying, I'm from the US, my family lives in the US. So if we're flying to the US, it's weeks in advance. We're like, okay, we're going to go to the airport. We need to get on the plane. And when we get on the plane, we're going to, you know, sit and go through the whole thing all the time, like just constantly going through. And I think that's like you say, it happens behind closed doors.
Yeah. No one sees all the hard work that you have to put in just to be able to get out of the door in the first place. And with both of mine, like my daughter's on the pathway for a diagnosis, she presents completely different to my son. They are the complete opposite. Arlo is better off knowing things last minute. So if we're doing something on that day, I'm better to tell him on the day because he understands it's happening at that period of time. Whereas with my daughter, she needs to know weeks in advance. So I have the issue of I'll tell her and then Arlo will think it's happening that day and he can't put the two and two together that it's not yet. So then he'll keep saying to me every single day, well, why haven't we gone here yet? Why haven't we done this yet? Because his brain just he's not got the concept of time. Whereas my daughter's anxiety is really bad that she has to know in advance. I have to tell her where we're going, how we're going to get there, who we're going to see, what potentially could happen, what could potentially change. I have to explain everything to her for her own state. But then with Arlo, it backfires. So I have the tricky situation of trying to balance it between the two, which is hard.
Yeah, I was like, that's a whole nother layer.
That is a whole nother level. And actually her autism has we only really noticed it within the last year. She's been masking all of this time and it's just come like a bomb, I suppose is the only way to explain it. And it's heartbreaking because you can see she's really, really struggling. And I think she's held on to it for such a long time that it's all now just coming out at once. And she is in burnout, bless her. But then also that's heightened everything. It's heightened her anxiety actually around Arlo not eating. You know, it massively affects the siblings because, you know, she is worried about him. He has been in hospital twice because of it. And she worries that if he's unwell, she instantly thinks he's going to end up in hospital, which obviously he isn't. And we'd like to keep him out of hospital. But in her head, that's all she remembers. She remembers him being unwell and he goes straight to hospital. So it is hard to navigate even just that side of it, just to try and keep reassuring her that, you know, I am doing everything I can to keep him out of that situation. But sometimes it comes out of everyone's control. I can't control that. And that's quite tricky. And I think where she's so anxious, that hits her really hard because she just worries about him all the time. And it's really sad. You shouldn't have to worry about him in that sense.
Yeah. How do you get, and maybe you don't, but how do you get time for you to decompress, for you to kind of just be able to regulate yourself and be able to juggle all of these things?
I find it hard, I'm not going to lie. I think most probably we got to a point where we just didn't know what to do with him. He was more and more becoming unwell. It was just becoming so stressful. And then obviously on top of my daughter's hip problem, which is fine, you know, we've got all of that under control. I think I just hit rock bottom. And, you know, and you can just see I was losing myself. I was kind of lost. And I knew that unless I accepted everything that was going on, especially with his eating, I think acceptance with ARFID is probably the most important thing as a parent. You need to sit down and talk to yourself because you can't support someone if you don't understand this yourself. I have done courses. I have read absolutely everything I physically could. I've done online webinars. I have done so much research to be able to accept what is going on. And equally, this isn't my fault. And I think years ago, I blamed myself. Everyone does. I think you go through that parent guilt. Was it something I did? You know, did I not wean properly? Did I give up too quickly? Like, is this me? Have I done it? But I think you've got to accept that none of this is your fault. They have an eating disorder. There is a reason behind it. And all you can do is support them in the best way you can. But you can't do that if you're running from an empty cup, you know. And I am fortunate I don't work because obviously their care needs and stuff. But I do try and tend to, when they're at school, look after myself. But obviously, again, we all say that, don't we? And it's never that simple. You find yourself lost in cleaning and stuff like that. Or I'm filling out one plans and chasing dietitians and filling out forms and chasing school, or school's ringing me because one of them's not well. There's so much work behind it, isn't there? And you don't realise that all of that is also a mental impact on yourself. I have got better. Yeah. I do know that I need to put myself first because you can't support someone if you're not ready.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah. That's so true about ARFID, but also, I don't want to say any neurodivergence, but like when they're ready to do something, we can champion that and not force it. And it's when we step back that they can that they get to kind of thrive a bit. You know, like you say, in a loving way, you're ignoring them, but what you're really doing is just easing the pressure off of them to do certain things. And I think
especially with autism and like with my daughter, Christmas, I think, was the point of where she just popped. And I was like, she's in burnout. And it took us a couple of days to work it out. And in the end, I was like, no one talked to her. No one asked her to do anything. Just leave her. And everyone was like, what do you mean? And I'm like, just leave her. She needs to get out of this funk, no matter how she gets out of it. And we can't, because everything we was doing, everything we were saying, anything so minor was just triggering her even more. And it had absolutely nothing to do with anything. But we was just like, we've got to get a step back here because she can't cope. And it's the same with Arlo and his eating. If I was to put pressure on him, you can see he's just gone. He's not going to engage. He's not going to want to come anywhere near me because you can see the pressure's there. And I think sometimes it is stepping back, which at the time it feels hard, doesn't it? Because you step back and you think, oh, am I not supporting you? But actually you are, because stepping back allows them to recover. It allows them to find their feelings, doesn't it? I think it's a very hard thing to get your head around as a parent.
Yes. Yeah.
Very hard.
It's very hard because it's like you said, I always going to say, I'm lovingly ignoring him.
Yes.
And that he is safe. He's in a safe place. You know, it's not like any harm can come to him, but at the same time, like you say, me stepping back just releases the pressure. Whatever is kind of happening, which is weird, which I feel like it's the opposite to what the world is kind of saying, in that like you need to do all the things and, be at all the places, and actually it's not the case.
And I think that's it. Society, isn't it, is the huge thing. It comes to Christmas. You should be taking your child out to see Santa. You should be doing all these elaborate things, but you can't with a child that's got ARFID or autism or ADHD or, even for my daughter at a young age, we couldn't take her to soft play because she wasn't allowed to because of her hip. I think it's a lot of pressure externally, isn't it? You should be taking your kids out for dinner. Well, no, I can't because obviously it's not a good place for him. We're getting better. But I think people want to people please, don't they? People want to please society. They want everyone to think their life is bright and dandy when it's not. No one ever truly opens up about what goes on behind closed doors. They only ever post, really, what they want you to see, isn't it? Oh, I've been out for the day. But that day out has taken you 3 days to prepare. You're then making yourself ill. You feel sick with anxiety, but the pictures look fantastic. But that's not reality.
Yeah, I'm very aware of that. And I always kind of say I hate weekends for lots, for mixture of reasons and some of that is the idea that people who, have neurotypical or not kids go out and they have these beautiful, like you say, beautiful pictures and, and you just see that moment. You don't see
everything else.
And so, as I scroll or as I hear even friends talk about, all these weekend plans and knowing and not that we can't ever do anything, but at the same time, it just takes so much more to do something that we can't do everything. I mean, that's the reality is, one, we can't do everything. And two, we have to prepare so much more that it's like, we can really only do one thing, or nothing.
And they need that downtime, don't they? And I think with Arlo and his eating, I think because his intake is only milk, he gets tired very, very, very quickly. So we have to be really careful what we even do at the weekend, because obviously he needs his body to recharge from school. So if we then was to be like, right, we're going to go out Saturday and we're going to go out Sunday, he's got no recharge time. And obviously that's really important, because obviously if he can't recharge, he'll end up poorly. So even down to little things like that, isn't it? People are like, oh, what are you doing at the weekend? I'm like, nothing. Because both of them need that time out. They need the time out away from outside pressure, isn't it? Just going to school is pressure, whether they want to be there or not, isn't it? School is such a pressured place that they need that weekend time to let loose, be themselves, isn't it? Sit in their room all weekend or bounce on a peanut ball or do whatever they're doing. They need that time to be able to be themselves.
Yeah, definitely. What do you want the world to know about neurodiverse people?
That everyone's journey is different. I think we live in a world where everyone compares, and I think, unfortunately, it's just, you can't, can you? My 2 kids are the complete opposite, and they're both autistic. No 2 journeys are the same, and I think people need to be a bit more wary of that. I think there's always that, oh, well, your child's verbal, your child's non. Do you know what I mean? There's always someone's going to say something negatively, and I think, why can't people focus on the positives rather than the negatives? Living with ARFID is really, really, really hard, but he's the happiest kid. He loves life. And I think everyone in general, isn't it? They always people pick on the negatives. People would rather comment that, oh, your child's only eating milk. I'm like, okay, well, he's most probably happier than you though, because he would never be nasty to someone. I think, everyone just has to remember that everyone's journey is completely different. And it takes a lot to raise a child with neurodivergence or even just any additional needs, any hidden disability. It takes a lot.
Yeah, everyone's different and everyone's hard. I think that's what I've learned is there's a thing I saw, someone sent it to me, of like, not having kids is hard, but having kids is hard, and not having money is hard, but having money is hard. And it's like this list of things, and it at the bottom of it just said, choose your hard. Yeah. And it was a good reminder that just everything is hard. Like, it's, not to say there isn't joy in that, but it's just
everyone's scenario, isn't it, comes with struggles from some extent. Everyone's, there's going to be no one out there that's got a perfect life. And I think people, feel like they have to be a certain way, don't they? Which isn't. You've got to do what makes you happy, what makes your family happy, because that's the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for being on and talking about ARFIDs and just your journey raising 2 kids. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
That was such an eye-opening episode. I honestly learned so much, and I'm so thankful to Michelle for breaking down ARFID in such a compassionate and practical way. If this episode resonated with you, or you know someone who it might, I would totally encourage you to share it with them, either by tagging them on socials or just sending them a link directly. And remember, feeding challenges aren't your fault. You're doing your best, and your child is doing theirs too. You've got this, and you are not alone.